Wesley was waiting for the school bus on a country road. He got on the bus and sat only in the back row. At the school for the hearing-impaired students learn sign language to communicate. One of Wesley's classmates always bullied him by rubbing dirt into his hair. He got off the bus by the roadside and walked home through the forest, living in a small community. During family dinner, Wesley's mother read a notice about a late mortgage payment. She asked the kids what they wanted for dinner. Wesley's little sister said she wanted a crocodile for dessert. They joked about it and had a great time together. After dinner, Wesley played chess with his mother and won. However, it seemed like she let him win to encourage him. The next day on the way to school, Wesley saw an obstacle on the road. There were many police cars and ambulances near a building. When he came home from school, his mother told him that his father had returned after being away for a long time. Wesley was a bit hesitant when his father asked for a hug. He wasn't really happy to see him. Ronnie worked as a truck driver and said he didn't know when his boss would send him on another trip. During dinner, Ronnie talked about a nearby shooting that left 4 people dead, making headlines in the news. The mother changed the subject, mentioning that Wesley scored 95 on a test with only 1 mistake. His father didn't really care about the achievement, just nodding and saying it must have been a tough question. The mother asked Wesley if he wanted more food, signing the words using sign language. Ronnie wanted her to stop doing that because Wesley could lip read or wear a hearing aid, and they should treat him like a normal person. Otherwise it would be hard for him to adapt to society later on. The mother then asked Wesley without signing, and he nodded. Ronnie, satisfied, said that Wesley could hear just fine. The next morning, Ronnie told Wesley that his mother would be staying overnight at his grandmother's house and he would take care of him. He handed Wesley his school lunch bag. When Wesley opened his lunch, the bully bothered him again. However, Wesley didn't fight back and ignored it. On his way home, he spotted a man lying in the snow clutching a bag. The man gestured for him to stay quiet. His hands were covered in blood and he looked like he had been there for a long time. Wesley ran to get his father for help, but Ronnie was busy fixing the truck and didn't want to be disturbed. He didn't understand Wesley's signs and told him to write it down. Wesley decided to run back to where the man was with his father following behind. When they got back to the spot, Wesley saw that it was completely empty. During dinner, Ronnie asked Wesley to pass him the salt, but Wesley didn't hear. Ronnie then tried to shout louder, startling his daughter. That night, Wesley left his bedroom and decided to look for the homeless man while his father was fast asleep. Wesley searched near the spot where he had first seen the man and eventually found him. He pulled him onto a sled, secured him with straps and dragged him to an abandoned shed. He placed the man on a pile of straw and covered him with a warm blanket. When the man opened his eyes, Wesley gestured for him to be quiet. Completely exhausted, the homeless man dozed off. When he woke up the next morning and saw the boy still there, he realized while talking to Wesley that the boy couldn't hear anything. As he pulled up his sweater, Wesley noticed that he had a bullet wound. Wesley went home to get some medical supplies. He brought the supplies back to the man and let him stitch up the wound himself. The man ate the entire candy bar that Wesley had and asked if he had anything else to eat. A news report about the shooting that had occurred earlier was playing on the TV. While Wesley's parents watched the news, Wesley secretly placed his dinner into a toy box. Ronnie left the house saying he needed to meet a colleague. Wesley brought food to the man, who commented that Wesley's mother cooked very well. He then explained that he couldn't stay there any longer because he needed to meet a friend. He tried to stand up but failed to take more than a few steps. They could also hear the sound of a searching helicopter flying overhead. The man asked Wesley for a favor and gave him specific instructions on what to do. He told the boy to go to a roadside cafe. Wesley left the man's ring on the truck. The truck driver had just left the cafe with a girl when he saw the ring on his truck and gave Wesley a ride. The boy handed the driver an envelope and refused to tell him where the man was. Just then a police car passed by. The truck driver said he needed time to arrange everything and that it would take at least a few weeks. He handed Wesley a paper bag. When Wesley returned, he gave the bag to the man. The man took out a phone and said he would have to stay there longer than expected. The boy brought him some warm clothes from his father. Wesley watched the man exercise and tried to mimic his movements. The man approached and taught him how to do pull-ups. A little later, Wesley was watching TV with his sister when his mother came home. His father also returned with a pile of firewood. He dropped a few logs and Wesley rushed over to help. But instead of picking them up, he started organizing them for his father to carry. Ronnie got angry because the boy didn't hear him and shouted for him to stop. Later, Wesley brought a checkers set to the man and they played a few games. Wesley lost and felt frustrated, flipping the entire board over. The man said, "You think I'm going to let you win just because you're deaf? You only win when you deserve to win." Wesley wanted to give up, but the man told him to come back. He began teaching Wesley some tricks and advised him to think carefully before making a move. The man asked Wesley how old he was and mentioned that he also had a daughter about Wesley's age. He also inquired about what was stuck in Wesley's hair. Wesley told him about being bullied at school. The man asked him to bring a thermos and a piggy bank. He smashed the piggy bank, filled the thermos with coins, placed it in a bag and struck it hard against a metal container. He then handed the backpack to Wesley and asked him to follow along. But Wesley couldn't hit hard. The man started scolding him to provoke his anger. "What the hell is wrong with you? Don't act so weak anymore. Hit it hard like you really want to do it." Wesley lost his composure and struck the container forcefully. At school, Wesley felt restless. He sat in class waiting for lunchtime. Finally, the bully approached him during lunch. Wesley suddenly stood up and stared aggressively into the bully's eyes. He remembered the man's words, "Stay calm, stand firm," look him straight in the eye and smash his damn head in, and it worked. When he got home, he saw his mother talking to Mr. Champers. He sat down and Mr. Champers told him about a robbery that had occurred 3 weeks earlier. He said that 4 out of 5 robbers had been caught but one had escaped. He showed Wesley a picture of the fugitive and Wesley recognized him as the man from the shed. They knew he was injured and might not be able to run far. Wesley looked out the window and saw 2 agents watching the shed from outside. Mr. Champers asked if Wesley could see the man and Wesley remained silent. Another agent knocked on the door and Mr. Champers left. Later, while playing checkers, Wesley noticed that the man was missing a finger on his left hand. The man explained that a tiger had bitten off his finger. He then learned how to track it down and ultimately killed the tiger, tightening its heart. He had attached it to a ring. Wesley fell asleep on the pile of straw, but the man woke him up and told him to go home. On the way to school the next morning, Wesley painted his finger black to look like his new friend's. He taught the man a loyalty vow in sign language. They played around with each other like a father and son. When Wesley ran to pick up a ball, he didn't realize that the sheriff was watching through the shed window. The man suddenly grabbed him, covered his mouth, and pulled out a gun, but the sheriff then walked away. That evening, Wesley planned to go to the shed, but his father noticed and asked where he was sneaking off to. The drunken father mumbled that nothing in the house was working properly, from the tractor to the TV, and he couldn't fix any of it. He recounted how his father used to be able to fix everything just by hitting it hard. Then he began to pound on the TV, kicking it and shouting. The next morning, Wesley brought toilet paper to the shed and tried to leave quickly. The man stopped him and noticed the bruises on his face. He asked, "Did school do that to you?" Wesley didn't answer and quietly walked away. The man realized it was caused by Wesley's father. The mother checked the bruise, but Ronnie lied, saying that Wesley accidentally got hit in the elbow while he was punching the TV. At dinner, Ronnie mentioned that he would take his son fishing, but Wesley couldn't understand without sign language. Then his mother translated his father's words. Wesley agreed to go fishing, although his expression still showed concern. That night, Ronnie was drinking at the bar. When he stepped outside to use the restroom, a stranger approached him. Ronnie irritably asked, "What do you want?" Later, Wesley and his mother received a call from the sheriff informing them that Ronnie had been beaten and was in the hospital. At dinner that night, Wesley finally sat in his favorite spot, the one from which Ronnie had previously kicked him out. After dinner, he went to the barn. The man shared that when he was Wesley's age, his father bought horses and made him take care of them, but he wasn't allowed to name them. One day the barn caught fire and the insurance covered everything. His father thought that not naming the horses would make it easier to let them go. In a daze, the man murmured that he would take Wesley with him and they could live together. His daughter would take care of the horses. The next morning at school, the students learned a new phrase in sign language, "I will travel." Wesley closed his eyes and imagined himself taking care of horses on a farm with the man from the barn and his daughter. When he visited his father in the hospital, he saw 2 investigators showing a picture of the man for identification. That afternoon, the man revealed that a snowplow frequently passed by. Sometimes it would pull over and stop in front of the house. Wesley woke up at night and noticed the flashing lights of police cars and the spotlight of a helicopter. The next day, the man said that the snowplow hadn't come by all day. He asked Wesley if he had told anyone about him and warned him. Wesley brought his backpack to the barn. As usual, the man asked him what he had brought for dinner, but Wesley seemed confused. The man grabbed Wesley's backpack, but he wouldn't let go. The backpack opened and a thermos full of coins fell out. "Wow, I didn't expect that," he said, telling Wesley to get ready for the next night. The following evening, Wesley packed toys into a bag and before leaving he went over to his sister and signed that he was going to travel. He played chess with the man and this time Wesley finally won. The truck driver called and told him to come outside. The man handed Wesley the chessboard and told him not to lose it. He said goodbye, but Wesley was stunned because he thought they would go together. In desperation, Wesley spoke the first word of his life, "No." He hugged the man tightly and wouldn't let go. The man tried to explain, but Wesley wouldn't listen. Forced to push him away roughly, he told him to leave the barn. Wesley ran outside and was grabbed by a police officer, causing the chessboard to fall. Sitting in the police car, he saw Mr. Champer ordering an attack. Wesley saw the truck driver in another police car. The man began shooting and was killed. Wesley tried to scream in pain, but no sound came out. The next day, he found a chessboard full of coins near the barn and on it was the man's ring. When he got home, he saw his father. Wesley was no longer afraid of him. He approached the sad and angry man and hugged him. Wesley went into his room, sat on the bed and put the ring on his finger. The film ends here. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the latest videos.